In a quiet corner of an old English town, where cobblestone streets glimmered softly under the amber glow of gas lamps, there stood a tiny clock shop. Its windows, framed in polished oak, were fogged slightly by the cool breath of the evening. Behind those windows, hundreds of clock faces ticked in gentle unison, filling the night air with a calm and steady rhythm. The town was already falling asleep. Curtains were drawn. Fires were dying to embers in stone hearths. Only the soft chiming of the distant church bell marked the passing of each hour. The streets were empty, save for the occasional cat wandering silently between the houses. Inside the shop, an elderly clockmaker named Rowan sat, hunched over a wooden workbench. His silver hair glowed beneath a warm oil lamp, and his glasses perched delicately on the tip of his nose. The ticking around him felt like a comforting choir, each sound another heartbeat in the quiet room. Rowan's hands moved slowly but with great care as he adjusted a delicate gear within a pocket watch. He had repaired clocks for over 50 years and knew every spring, every cog, as though they were old friends. To him, each clock carried a story. Each tick was a memory. Beyond the shop windows, a gentle fog rolled in from the river. It spread across the cobblestones, settling like a soft blanket over the sleeping town. The mist brought with it a cool hush, absorbing echoes and muffling footsteps until silence was nearly complete. Rowan paused his work, exhaling with a tired sigh. He leaned back and listened. The ticking of the clocks slowed in his perception, merging into a single harmonious pulse. A peaceful stillness filled the shop. For a moment, Rowan felt as though time itself were holding its breath. He closed his eyes. The oil lamp flickered. Somewhere, far away, a faint chime rang, soft as starlight, delicate as falling snow. It was not the sound of any clock in the shop. It was different, almost melodic, like a whisper carried through time. Rowan opened his eyes, puzzled. The chime rang again, then faded into silence. He felt a strange comfort wash over him, as though the sound had been meant only for him. Outside, the fog thickened, curling around the shop like a guardian. The world seemed slower now, gentler, suspended between waking and dreaming. Rowan placed the pocket watch back onto his workbench, noticing the hands had stopped, though he was certain he had just repaired it. Yet he did not feel alarm. Instead, a deep calm spread through him. He rose from his bench, walked to the front door, and unlocked it. The bell above the door jingled softly as he stepped outside. But even that familiar chime seemed muted by the mist. Rowan looked down the street. Everything felt still, almost unreal. The clocks back inside the shop continued ticking, but more slowly now, as though time itself were beginning to unwind. He took one slow breath, then another. And with that, Rowan stepped into the quiet, mist-filled night. unaware that his longest and most mysterious journey was about to begin. Rowan stepped carefully along the cobblestone street, his shoes tapping softly against the stones. The mist swirled around his feet, as though greeting an old friend. Lamps glowed dimly behind frost-kissed glass, casting golden halos in the haze. The clockmaker walked without hurry. Each breath formed a small cloud before fading gently into the night. The entire town seemed to be holding still, suspended between seconds. Rowan, usually weighed down by the march of time, felt strangely light. He passed the bakery, shutters closed for the night. The scent of warm bread lingered faintly in the air, mixing with the crisp scent of winter and damp stone. With each step, Rowan became increasingly aware of the silence. It was not empty silence, rather a comforting quiet, like a soft blanket draped over the world. The only sound came from the steady chiming of clocks in the distance, echoing from his shop. Yet even those chimes now felt slower, elongated, as though stretching across an unseen threshold. Rowan paused beneath an old iron street lamp. Its flame flickered within the glass chamber, dancing gently against the fog. The soft glow illuminated the faint outline of the river beyond the town square. The clockmaker realized he could hear the water, its gentle rhythm blending seamlessly with the faint ticking behind him. The river had always been there, flowing alongside the town, shaping its history. But tonight, it seemed different, more alive, more aware. Rowan made his way toward the sound of the water. The clockmaker walked past the bookshop with its dusty display of leather-bound classics, past the tailor's window draped with neatly folded fabric, and past the quiet inn, where a single lantern still burned. When Rowan reached the stone bridge that arched over the water, he rested his hands on the cool railing. The river drifted lazily beneath him, reflecting the lanterns like trembling stars. The surface rippled in slow, mesmerizing patterns, as though influenced by an unseen rhythm. He felt time loosening further. A clock somewhere chimed the hour, but the sound stretched impossibly long, like a bell tolling underwater. Rowan waited, expecting the chime to fade, but instead it dissolved into a faint, melodic hum. The hum grew softer, floating through the mist, drawing Rowan's gaze to the far side of the river. There, beyond the bridge, the fog parted to reveal a narrow path bordered by tall willow trees. Their branches dipped gracefully toward the water, swaying slightly, despite the still air. The path had always been there, or so Rowan thought, yet he could not recall ever seeing it so clearly. The trees glowed faintly, illuminated by a soft blue shimmer that pulsed like a heartbeat. Intrigued, Rowan followed the gentle light. The cobblestones beneath his feet gradually gave way to a carpet of soft moss. His footsteps became soundless. Above, the willow branches formed an archway, filtering the light into delicate patterns across the ground. A breeze stirred, though Rowan felt no wind against his skin. The leaves rustled in slow motion, whispering softly in a language he could not understand. As he walked deeper, the hum of the river faded, replaced by the ticking of unseen clocks. Tick, 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 tick. The sound was faint, but it resonated within Rowan's chest, comforting and familiar. He felt no fear, only a quiet curiosity tinged with peace. The path widened, opening into a secluded glade. In its centre stood an ancient clock tower. Small, no taller than Rowan himself, crafted of weathered stone entwined with ivy. At its peak, a single silver bell glimmered. The clock face was unlike any Rowan had ever seen. The hands moved not forward or backward, but in smooth circles, spiralling endlessly inward. The numbers glowed softly, shifting like reflections on water. Rowan approached, drawn in by the silent rhythm. The moment his fingertips brushed the cold stone, the ticking ceased. Silence fell. Not an absence of sound, but a complete stillness, as though every second in the world had paused to listen. The silver bell above gave a gentle chime. One clear note. Soft, pure, eternal. Rowan closed his eyes, and time slipped quietly away. When Rowan opened his eyes, the mist within the glade swirled more slowly, as if time itself had taken a deep breath and relaxed. The small tower before him stood silent, waiting. The clockmaker pulled his coat closed against the chill, though the air seemed neither cold nor warm, only suspended. His heart beat calmly, steadily, as though matching the rhythm of the unseen ticking that had once guided him. Rowan had spent his life mending clocks, always aware of the push and pull of passing hours. Time had been his companion, his guide, and at moments, his burden. He had watched days turn into years, watched seasons change through his workshop window, and watched friends drift away like sand through an hourglass. He thought of a memory, long buried beneath years of routine. A small pocket watch placed in his hands by his father, when he was a boy. It had been Rowan's first clock, its delicate ticking unlocking a fascination that would shape his entire life. His father's voice seemed to echo clearly in his mind. Time is not just numbers, Rowan. It breathes, it rests, it dreams. Rowan had spent decades questioning those words, always wondering what his father truly meant. Now, beneath the ancient willow trees, with the silver bells still resonating faintly in the air, Rowan felt closer to understanding. He stepped around the small tower, running his fingers across the smooth stone. Carved symbols traced every surface, circles within circles, spirals twisting inward, and markings that resembled flowing water. The clock hands continued their endless dance, forming intricate patterns as they moved. As Rowan watched, the spiraling hands slowed, then stopped at the center. A faint glow pulsed from the stone, and the symbols shimmered as if stirred by an unseen tide. Rowan's breath caught slightly. Though he did not understand how or why, he sensed the tower was aware of him, listening, waiting for something. He reached into his coat pocket and retrieved the watch he had been repairing earlier. The one that had inexplicably stopped. He opened the case. Still silent, still motionless. Yet, the face of the watch glimmered faintly, reflecting the soft blue light of the glade. Rowan held it toward the stone tower. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the ancient bell chimed once more, the note stretching across the stillness like a beam of light. The hands of the pocket watch trembled, then began turning, not forward, but backward, slowly and smoothly. Memories flooded Rowan's mind like gentle waves. His father smiling beside the workshop table, the first chime of the watch. Long, quiet nights repairing clocks beneath oil lamps, the steady comfort of passing seconds. He felt warmth spread through his chest, not urgency, not fear, but a deep and patient nostalgia. A longing to hold a moment still, to rest in it without the relentless pull of time. The tower glowed brighter. Rowan closed the watch and stepped back. A soft hum surrounded him, lifting the mist in delicate swirls. The willow branches rustled again, but their whispers now clearer, like distant voices calling from another time. Rowan sensed that a path had opened before him, not one marked by stone or moss, but one woven through memories and dreams. The journey ahead would reveal truths hidden in the spaces between seconds, where time slowed, rested, perhaps even vanished, with one final glance at the spiraling hands of the tower clock. Rowan stepped toward the shimmering path of mist, ready to follow wherever it led. The path of mist unfurled gently before Rowan, stretching into the silent forest beyond the clearing. It did not feel like an ordinary path. There were no stones, no earth beneath his feet. Instead, the surface seemed to shimmer with a silver glow, like moonlight frozen into a ribbon. Rowan stepped forward carefully. Each footfall made no sound. The mist rose softly around his ankles, swirling like water around a ship's hull. Above, the willow branches remained still, though the hum of distant chimes continued to echo faintly. The deeper Rowan walked, the more the forest transformed. The trees grew taller, their trunks smooth and pale as if carved from marble. Their branches intertwined high above, forming arches that resembled cathedral ceilings. Flecks of silver light floated slowly downward, settling onto Rowan's coat before fading away. He felt strangely weightless, as though each step pulled him not forward, but inward, into memories folded between the seconds. He let the sensation wash over him. There was no urgency here, no sense of time passing. The only rhythm came from Rowan's breath, steady and slow. At length, he reached a small clearing bathed in a soft golden light. In its center lay a shallow pool of water, perfectly still, reflecting the branches above like a mirror. Rowan knelt beside it, drawn by a gentle warmth. that radiated from its surface. When he gazed into the reflection, he did not see his own face. Instead, he saw the familiar interior of his clock shop, the wooden shelves lined with ticking clocks, the workbench illuminated by the oil lamp, his father standing beside him with a gentle hand on his shoulder. Rowan's breath caught. Yet the sensation brought comfort rather than fear. The memory expanded in depth and clarity. The smell of polished brass, the faint scent of lavender from the satchel his mother once placed near the window, the rhythmic ticking of dozens of tiny gears moving in harmony. His father's voice rose softly from the reflection, though his lips did not move. Time is not a river, Rowan. It is a garden, and every moment is a seed. The pool's surface rippled, blurring the image until it dissolved back into shimmering water. Rowan stood slowly, heart steady, mind quiet. A soft breeze drifted through the clearing. Unlike before, this wind carried warmth, a tender, lingering calm that soothed Rowan's joints and eased the tension from his shoulders. He followed the breeze as it guided him beyond the pool, deeper into the luminous forest. The trees parted to reveal an ancient cobblestone road, half covered in moss and illuminated by floating lanterns. Each lantern swayed slightly, though there was no rope or pole holding them aloft. They drifted gently in the air, glowing with a pale amber light. Rowan walked beneath them, feeling the familiar comfort of lamplight. It reminded him of the nights he worked late in his shop, repairing clocks long after the rest of the town had gone to bed. The ticking had always kept him company then, steady, predictable, reassuring. Here the ticking returned, faint but distinct. It echoed through the forest, growing louder with each step Rowan took. Yet the rhythm remained soothing, like the heartbeat of an ancient creature at rest. As Rowan followed the road, the lanterns began to pulse gently in time with the ticking. One lantern drifted closer, hovering before him like a curious firefly. Its surface shimmered, revealing shapes within the glass. Gears, springs, and clock hands turning slowly. Rowan reached out. The lantern responded by brightening subtly, bathing his hand in warm light. The ticking grew louder. Then a voice, soft and distant, as though carried from another room, whispered through the forest. Moments remembered, moments forgotten, every tick a choice. Rowan paused, listening. The voice sounded familiar, though he could not place it. The lantern drifted backward, beckoning him onward. Rowan followed, the gentle glow guiding him into a part of the forest where the trees grew farther apart, revealing a sky filled with stars. Yet these were not stars he recognized. They shimmered in slow spirals, forming patterns that shifted like clockwork. The constellations rotated gracefully, as if marking a time beyond human perception. For a brief moment, Rowan felt as though he stood outside the flow of time entirely, an observer in a vast, silent universe. The path led him to a stone archway, partially hidden by tangled vines. Symbols resembling clock faces were etched into the stone, their hands frozen at different positions. The arch pulsed softly with blue light. The lantern hovered near the centre of the archway, before fading slowly into nothingness. Rowan hesitated, not from fear, but from awe. The archway felt ancient, sacred. As he stepped through, a gentle chime rang out, resonating through the trees. The forest dissolved into mist. Rowan felt the sensation of falling, not downward, but sideways, slipping between the threads of time itself. The ticking accelerated for a moment, then slowed into silence. When the mist cleared, Rowan found himself standing in a vast hall filled with countless clocks of every shape and size. Some were towering grandfather clocks with ornate carvings. Others were tiny pocket watches floating freely in the air. All ticked in perfect harmony, creating a soothing chorus that echoed through the chamber like a lullaby. The hall stretched endlessly in every direction, illuminated by a soft, eternal twilight. Rowan felt no weight on his body, no ache in his aging bones. Instead, he felt young, rested, renewed. A gentle voice rose from the silence, neither male nor female, neither near nor far. "Welcome, Keeper of Moments." Rowan turned slowly. Heart calm, breath steady. The voice continued. "You have mended the threads of others for a lifetime. Now, it is time to mend your own." The clocks chimed softly, like distant ocean waves beneath moonlight. Rowan felt no confusion, only acceptance. He realized that he had been guided here not to escape time, but to understand it. And his journey into the dream of clocks had only just begun. Rowan stepped deeper into the hall, his footsteps silent upon the polished stone floor. The clocks that lined the walls ticked in perfect synchrony. Steady, measured, unhurried. Each second sounded like a whispered heartbeat within a resting world. He paused before an ornate grandfather clock standing taller than any he had seen. Its wooden frame was carved with vines and constellations. The moon phases etched in delicate silver. The pendulum swung in slow motion, its rhythm calming and hypnotic. Rowan placed a hand gently on the smooth wood. With his touch, the carvings glowed faintly, and a soft breeze drifted through the hall, though there were no windows nor doors. The pendulum's swing became slower still, until eventually it stopped. Yet the hall remained serene. Rowan took a slow breath, expecting silence to follow. Instead, A soft hum emanated from the depths of the clock, as though something within it stirred. The clock face shimmered, and the numbers dissolved, replaced by a swirling pattern of faint light. A warm glow spread outward from the clock, coalescing into a figure formed from threads of gentle radiance. The figure was neither shadow nor flesh, yet it felt familiar, like a memory given form. When the figure spoke, the voice was calm, layered with distant echoes. "You have stepped beyond the ticking world, Rowan." The Clockmaker felt the light embrace him like a soothing breeze. "I have spent my life mending clocks," he whispered, his own voice sounding distant. "But time remained beyond my grasp." The figure nodded, its form shifting with ripples of golden light. "You have balanced the gears of others' moments, but your own hours were left untended. The heart cannot rest when bound by restless seconds." Rowan gazed at the suspended pendulum. For the first time, he recognized his own reflection in the polished brass. The face staring back was younger, unburdened, eyes bright with wonder. He felt tears gather, though not from sorrow. They were tears of long-forgotten relief, of recognizing that every moment does not need to be measured or repaired. The figure raised a luminous hand, and the air shimmered. The hall darkened slightly as clocks surrounding Rowan slowed, their hands moving like drifting leaves. One by one, the ticking softened, until it resembled soft breaths rather than mechanisms. The figure spoke again. "Time bends for those who listen. It rests for those who are weary. And it dreams for those who seek peace." Rowan closed his eyes, letting the calm wash through him. He felt every clock in the hall resonating within his chest. 1,000 heartbeats aligned in perfect harmony. When he opened his eyes, the figure was already gliding forward, motioning gently for Rowan to follow. Without resistance, he walked alongside it deeper into the hall. The path between the clocks opened like a stream dividing stones. They reached a circular platform bathed in celestial blue light. In its center floated a vast clock without hands. Its face was smooth, filled only with a soft ripple of shifting color. "This," the figure whispered, "is the clock of stillness, where time sleeps and memory breathes. Rowan stepped closer. The surface of the clock reflected not the hall, but scenes from his past. Moments that slipped by unnoticed. Quiet breakfasts. Gentle laughter shared with his wife long gone. Evenings spent reading by lamplight. He reached out, fingertips hovering just above the surface. The clock pulsed warmly in response. "Every moment you treasured lives here," the figure murmured. "And those you thought forgotten wait patiently, untouched by rust." Rowan allowed his hand to rest against the clock. Warmth flooded through him, spreading slowly through his chest. His limbs, his breath. He felt lighter, as though a weight he hadn't known he carried had lifted. The hall faded from his vision. The warmth deepened, surrounding him like a comforting blanket. He heard the soft ticking fade away entirely, until there was no sound, no movement, just stillness. A peaceful, dreamlike silence where he felt suspended in gentle twilight. The voice of the luminous figure sounded distant, a soft echo. "Rest now, Rowan. Time will wait." The silence cradled him, and Rowan surrendered to its embrace, drifting into the quiet dream of stillness, where seconds dissolved into soft light and memory. Time seemed to dissolve around Rowan, as he drifted in the quiet glow of the clock of stillness. The silence was comforting, not empty. Like the hush that settles over a room just before dawn. For the first time in decades, Rowan felt no weight pressing upon his shoulders. No ticking echoed in his mind. The relentless passage of seconds, once his lifelong companion, now rested gently, curled like a sleeping cat beside him. A soft pulse trembled through the stillness. The figures within the illuminated clock rippled, dissolving into soft waves of colour. Rowan felt himself rise slowly, lifted by a tender breeze that carried neither urgency nor destination. When his feet touched solid ground again, he found himself standing once more within the great clock hall. Yet the clocks around him had changed. Their faces were calm, hands resting peacefully at midnight. The silence was serene. a quiet lullaby woven from gentle breaths of time. The luminous figure appeared beside Rowan, its form soft and warm, like the glow of dying embers. "You have learned the stillness within," the figure whispered, voice flowing like slow water. Rowan bowed his head slightly. Not out of obligation, but from gratitude. "All these years," he murmured, "I thought time was a force that dragged us forward. Always beyond reach, never pausing." The figure's light shimmered softly. "Time is not your master, Rowan. It is a companion. And companionship requires rest." Rowan inhaled deeply, savouring the peace that filled the air. "What becomes of me now?" he asked gently. The figure lifted an arm, guiding Rowan's gaze to the clocks lining the hall. As Rowan watched, each clock face shimmered, revealing images not of moments past but of quiet futures. Rowan sitting at his workbench, repairing a clock with calm ease. Rowan teaching a young apprentice with a kind smile. Rowan walking through the town square without hurry, savouring each breath of morning air. "These moments await," the figure said softly, "if you choose to return." Rowan's eyes widened slightly. Returning had not occurred to him. The peace he felt here was deep, inviting, soothing. Yet the vision of his shop, glowing with gentle lamplight, tugged at his heart like a thread woven from memory and hope. The figure continued. "You spent decades tending to time for others. Now you may tend to life for yourself." A warmth filled Rowan's chest, a feeling he had long forgotten. Possibility. The hall began to dim, lantern light softening into twilight hues. The clocks remained still, as if watching, waiting patiently. Rowan stepped forward. "Will time resume when I return?" The figure nodded slowly. "Time does not bind you when you walk with understanding. You may move with it now, not behind it." Rowan closed his eyes, absorbing the quiet wisdom. When he opened them again, the hall was beginning to dissolve into mist, its edges blurring into gentle spirals of light. The figure spoke one final time. "Follow the thread of your heartbeat. It will lead you home." Rowan nodded. The mist rose, enveloping him, soft and warm. The clocks grew faint, then vanished. Rowan felt himself drifting gently, weightless, returning through the folds of stillness. The ticking of distant clocks resumed. Not urgent, not demanding, but steady and peaceful. When the mist cleared, Rowan stood once more beneath the willow trees of the forest glade. The ancient stone tower rested silently, its silver bell glinting faintly beneath the moonlight. The pocket watch in Rowan's hand ticked softly, each beat calm and gentle. Rowan breathed deeply. Time had returned, but it no longer rushed past him. It flowed beside him, like a quiet stream guiding him home. With steady steps and a peaceful heart, Rowan turned toward the path leading back through the mist-covered forest. Edmund stepped outside the shop and closed the door gently behind him. The cool night air greeted his face with a soft chill, carrying the faint scent of chimney smoke, drifting lazily through the silent village. The cobbled street stretched ahead, quiet and empty beneath the watchful glow of the moon. Far across the rooftops, the great clock tower rose into the night sky. Its stone walls shone pale silver, while its large clock face remained perfectly still. The hands had not moved since time first paused. Frozen in a single moment of silence. Edmund felt no fear as he looked upon it. Instead, a quiet curiosity tugged at his heart, urging him forward. He walked slowly toward the tower, cane tapping softly against the stones. Each step echoed just a moment too long, as though sound itself lingered, unwilling to fade. Windows along the street were dark, curtains drawn. The people of Willowmere lay peacefully in sleep, unaware that the flow of time had been interrupted. Edmund reached the heavy wooden doors of the tower. The iron handle felt cool beneath his fingertips. With a steady breath, he pushed, and the door opened with a deep, gentle creak. Inside, the air smelled of polished wood and old metal. Lantern light flickered across the tall interior walls. The great gears above were frozen mid-motion, teeth interlocked in perfect stillness. Edmund placed his coat on the nearest chair and approached the pendulum. It hung motionless, yet warm beneath his hand. A faint hum pulsed through the tower, steady and reassuring, like the heartbeat of something enormous resting just beyond sight. Edmund closed his eyes and understood. Time was not dead, only dreaming.